The reason I feel a loss, or at least in part, is because there was something about that person or some things about that person that I so admired and loved, and I loved to be around it. And I didn't feel like I had it in me. And so that feels like I lost that thing that that person brought to the relationship.
If you live in more of that truth of there's no separation between you and infinite intelligence, you're less worried about what you don't have. All right, I'm super sad, but I think I can connect. But most of us are not practicing being our God selves. Although it's a good experiment. Can you go to the grocery store as God?
God is in the building, everyone. Please behave.
We have infinite intelligence in aisle 4. Clean up in aisle 4.
Hi, guys. Welcome to, I almost said Zoom Getter. Welcome to Flow Getter. We are super geeked that you're with us, joining us. We have lots of things to discuss. We're just going to kind of wing it. I have an idea, and I kind of want to title this, and apologies if the title changes, but in the moment, I want to call this the death episode.
Ooh, the death episode.
The death episode.
Sounds like it's actually going to be a lot of fun because you've got amazing thoughts about what happens outside of this time-space dimension. Why don't you tell us what's top of mind, Dr. Defoya?
Okay, so a little background. I just came back from funeral services. My uncle passed away unexpectedly. No, right? Thank you for saying that, because I hadn't seen a lot of people there. I think I told you this. I hadn't seen a lot of people there in years. And for me, I wasn't very close to him, but a lot of these people were very close to him. So they're grieving. And so when I saw them and I was like, hey, how are you? And then they weren't happy. And I was like, oh, shoot, I got to temper my, just like, I'm supposed to be sad. I'm so, or not that I'm supposed to be sad, but more empathy, more just, calm down, So then I was thinking about this and I was like, the more that I'm sort of, death is in my, sphere, kind of the top of mind kind of thing, the more I realize that ultimately, and I'm still trying to get used to this idea because I still kind of feel bad saying it, but the more I feel like transition is supposed to be something that's celebrated, and that we're supposed to I know it's hard because we feel the loss, we feel that feeling of loss, and then we feel that, but more and more I'm like, and I know that it would probably be a totally different story if someone very close to me left, or felt, I would feel that loss heavy more. Yes. And so I know.
And for the record, there's another podcast. Erica's mother had passed when she was younger, and we have other podcasts on that. So Erica does know what she's talking about. Back to what you're saying.
Thank you. So what I get geeked about, though, is that when people pass on or transition into the next, whatever this is, the next form of life, I feel like they're more present than ever here, because when we're here in the human form, we're literally just here in the human form. And yes, we have auras, and there's a certain, and our energy spills out this way, but we're so condensed right here, that it's harder for us to reach, or at least we think it is. I don't really believe that it is, but in our human form, it feels a little more challenging to be in 5,000 places at once and to know it and be conscious and be aware of it. But I think when we leave, now we're just free floating around, and we can we still are in a billion places at once, or bajillion places at once. We're still that. It's just, I think for us humans, it's easier to connect, or we feel like it's easier to connect. And I say that because I don't think it's any different when I just read an article yesterday, and I forgot exactly what it's called, but it was basically something about immortality, and kind of science, like some theory. I don't remember. Sorry, no scientific words. No,
blah blah blah.
It was cool, but it was basically saying that is it possible that we continuously die all the time? It's just that like it was looking at life in a different way, where like, let's say a relationship ends and you don't see that person again. That's like a form of death. Like in our, even though psychologically we feel like we know that person's still living in this earth, and they probably are, maybe they are, but like really they're just as dead as any dead person, that
might as well be dead.
Right, exactly.
You might as well be dead. You're dead to me all of high school, because I won't see you. Not that they are. Be great to see them. And
you're still dead.
Yeah. Yeah, you are dead. You're dead to us. You did. Okay, so okay, no, I just wanted to pause for a sec so I could wrap my head around this. So the idea is that you're saying if the person dies, they're actually more present in existence than the presence in the body, because, well, let's face it, we're never present in our minds ever, because we're always thinking not in this moment usually. So you're postulating that when they leave the body, they actually become more present because they're ever present.
Yes.
Because they're everywhere, because there's no boundaries anymore.
Right.
Did and maybe that right? Okay.
It totally did. And maybe I should rephrase that, because yes, that's exactly what I said. And now I'm like, well, perhaps it's that we're always the same amount of present. It's just that we've been trained and conditioned to believe that only in the human form are you present.
Right.
Whereas the truth is, like, I remember when my last romantic relationship ended, I remember there was a period where, like, basically what happened was he stopped talking to me completely, like wouldn't return phone calls or texts or anything.
Total.
And and I was like, and you know me, like I'm a 3. I need to express. I need you to be in my presence to express. And so I was like, well, how do I do this if he's not going to, lend me his human ear? And so I was like, oh, wait, the higher self, which is really, just the whole of who we are, which is infinite, is always connected to his higher self, which is also infinite in the whole of who he is.
Ooh. And it's like a hack.
It's a total
I can talk to you.
Yes.
Your higher self and talking to you.
That's right. So I was like, well, maybe it's better if I just talk to his higher self versus his human self, because
way better.
I feel like his higher self will listen to me.
Yes. It seems that infinite intelligence will listen to you instead of people.
Yes. So I did that. And I can't tell you how the minute I tapped into that, I felt the love, and I felt the presence, and I felt just the unconditional understanding and knowing from him that I knew was there, but I wasn't feeling it so much in the human form.
Yeah.
I felt like that was being very withheld, but like in the higher self form, I was like, oh, there it is. That feels good.
And there's huge.
It all the anger and animosity and all that just was gone. I was like, yep.
And the fact that you were, I would say, genius enough, dare I say genius, my friend, genius enough to do that, where you hacked over the human, you're like human schmuman, going to your higher self, because I need to express myself. And then you did it. And then the fact that you went through that, you were smart enough to go through that process so that you could go through your own process. And then also figure out that there's a higher self thing, and then now you're tying that to, like, yeah, whether your body's here or not, that's still there. And so this is like crazy genius shit you're talking about here, lady. This is amazing. Because who thinks about this stuff? You, the magic goddess.
Us,
right?
We do.
Right.
We do. This is like.
And it's also a solve for like 90% relationship problems right there. So we could also title this podcast "How to Solve All Your Ex-Boyfriend, Girlfriend, non-binary partner problems." Right?
Awesome.
So that's a benefit right there. So we could just have a podcast on like how to deal, but that was like the shorthand of like, just talk to their higher self. It's fine. So now it's almost like we could just be done with the podcast. It's
I know.
Amazing, but let's go deeper. The experience of having this funeral kind of brought you back to the same concept of, wait a minute, like this higher self thing, that because you're able to connect with your mother who's passed on the other side and other ancestors, and then the ex-boyfriend, you're like, wait, he's not dead, but I can still do this, which is totally amazing. Like, that's to me like the ultimate genius goodness. And then you're back in a sort of death situation. So like, again, kind of tell me again, like the new layers on top of that, because I feel like I missed some things.
This is
I have
great.
to clarify because you're like the queen. Erica's the queen of death here on Go Getter. But like in a good way. You're a transition goddess, right? You get it.
I like
Okay.
that title, Queen of Death.
Yeah.
Yes, you know what? So, oh man, so many, because loss, I know loss doesn't look the same, but if you really kind of simplify and boil it down, loss is loss. Whether you break up, whether someone dies, I think the difference is our minds say, okay, death equals permanence. So that feels so much more. Whereas a breakup, that's another kind of loss, but maybe our minds aren't like, yeah, but it's not forever. Maybe we'll see that person again, or maybe there's a chance, or even if we're the ones who are like, I'm good, I'm done. We were able to let go on our terms, so it's all of course up here.
Right.
Truth is like, a few things that aren't really related, but so many thoughts that I wanted to share. One of them was just a reminder that this is what we get this is the only thing we get our entire lives here. And this isn't even permanent.
When you're saying this, you mean the body?
Yeah, meaning this is all I get. My body is all I get. My personality in this short time that I'm here. And so it literally nothing else is guaranteed in this life. Even the body's not guaranteed. I could lose an arm tomorrow. But hopefully I don't.
I think we're good.
But
no farm implements.
No farm implements. Yeah. Point being, when we know that what is guaranteed is everything that's non-physical, you have forever, for as long as you want. And even, okay, and you and I know we can take this a step further, that even we don't even have to shed these bodies. I mean, we can really have whatever we want for as long as we want. We know this. And I think like the way that right now, maybe the easier thing to really kind of focus on here is that you always have, you always have love, you always have connection, you always have, you always have everything that, I guess, like I said, is non-physical.
It's going to sound like I'm coming from this angle, but but what popped in my head, so we're watching Picard on TV, and it's like a Star Trek thing. And anytime you watch Jean-Luc, and anytime you watch Next Generation or anything Picard related, so I mean, they always have the Borg, but they introduce the Borg in that thing. The ex-Borg is like, there's basically saying the point they're trying to make is you miss the connection and the community. Like they make a point of saying like, that's the only benefit of this crazy, scary thing that's coming, the machine's coming to assimilate you and all this stuff. And it's terrifying, but they're like, yeah, but this connection thing, and they're like, it's really lonely when you're not. And what I was thinking of is we've all conditioned ourselves to feel disconnected. And, and I think people like you seem to be someone that can like plug into the connection really easily. And other people are on maybe the far side of that spectrum where they're like, I don't know they don't believe in religions, or even if they do, they're just not feeling connected to the higher self stuff. So while this sounds really good in theory, they don't have an experience of it. They don't know what it feels like. And then that story perpetuates itself because they're like, well, I don't know what the hell that's supposed to feel like. And everyone makes it sound so amazing and whatever, but they really don't get it. That's even harder for people. Like if they have some connection to that, it's easier. Oh, okay, I can go plug into that. But if that just seems like, what the heck are you talking about? Or I know exactly what you're talking about and I still can't do it, which is almost more frustrating. But so for that population, like that's why it's probably even more difficult, death and all those things, because they're trying to find a way to plug back in and they don't know how. And since there is no separation, it's like there's layers of story or resistance to plugging in. And it's like, how much do we want to shed that? I guess is maybe the thing. Like, do I make that a side project for my life? How do I do this? So those are some deep
Yeah.
thoughts I had about that, is that wanting to be connected
And not
to
really
it,
knowing
and
how.
and not knowing how. And
Yeah.
it's so individualized, it's ridiculous. So you can't even, like, kind of.
Yep.
I think my only advice is, if you ask the universe, it's instantly given to you, and then you have to not keep telling yourself you don't. Oh, that can't be it. Is that it? That I don't know if that's it. Like, just keep saying yes until you're like, okay, I'm receiving the connection more and more, and it will start showing up. Whether it's a hummingbird flying in front of your face, or you're meditating and you just feel lighter and more peaceful. Or my friend, I got to have her on this podcast. She was like, heard a voice literally in the head saying, enter this raffle. And then she's like, I don't do raffles. And she entered it. She won the grand prize. She was at some concert or something like that. So some people literally have voices in their head. I'm like, wow. So you can have kind of all these different things. But the thing to keep in mind is, there's no way it has to look. You just have to have a feeling of, I feel more connected to something than I did 5 minutes ago. Like,
That's right.
I think that's really just the path. And you just keep, having that relationship with yourself and the universe, going like, more of this, please. And it'll keep offering that to you. The
Absolutely.
end. Okay. Sorry.
That's
So
great.
now, how
Yeah.
do you deal with loss? So this is the death episode, apparently. So,
Yeah.
so for people on all parts of the spectrum, where they have a funeral, how can your words, and I know they will because you're the goddess, like, how do you help? Okay, you find out someone dies, they were close to you, they weren't close to you, but you're still sad. What's next?
Yeah. I think there are a few things.
I know
So
I
I've
said so many things.
noticed,
Sorry.
no, it's great. No, I had thoughts for the question, because you triggered some thoughts
Okay.
to what you said, and I love what you said, because I agree with you. I think the intention has to be there. Can you hear me still?
Yes.
Okay. Did anything change?
No.
Okay,
I mean,
good.
you got more beautiful and fabulous and genius, but that's it.
I don't know how to do the hard thing.
Yeah, it's okay.
Um, so intention is huge, because I think you're right. It's all like, if we keep telling ourselves the same story, then we're blocking ourselves from, progressing and really feeling the connection. And then even if you feel complete, like you have no idea where to start or what to do, if you are truly intending, and like you said, ask the universe, things will start to show up. And meditation is also, I'm a huge proponent of meditation, because it's really our minds are the ones that make us feel disconnected.
Yeah.
It's nothing outside of ourselves that's making us feel connected ever. It's nothing outside of ourselves that's making us feel anything ever, period. Nothing.
Yes.
It's all here. So if you want to feel connected, you can, because it comes from here. If you want to feel disconnected, you can, because it comes from here.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
yeah,
perception
total perception
is
is
the law, basically.
absolutely. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
you'll find, if you're like, man, this person just died. Okay. This person is no longer in the human form and they are not coming back. Okay. That's like one person out of, I'm not sure how many other people. Some of us don't have large networks like in right now, or whatever. Maybe in their present, maybe that one person was the one person. There are also billions of other people in the world, and we're not only people, but that's just humans. And then there's like an infinite amount of loving energy that just is always around you, easily accessible at all times, period. That's
Yes.
it. So,
and she said period, folks, so that
I
don't
said
argue with her.
period. So
Period.
even if in the human, even in a moment, you don't feel like there's anyone. You're like, oh, I feel so lonely. I just want connection. Oh my God. And the thing that makes loss feel worse is when we're hyper focused on that person who's gone. We're
Yeah.
not seeing outside of that. We're not seeing that there is so much opportunity to make more amazing connections. It's not going to look exactly the same as, the one you had with this person who's gone, but you never know. It could look even better. And
Yeah.
that's possible. So anyway, point being, like, I know that's easy for me to say right now because I'm not going through it in the moment. And, but know that. And also the other thing I wanted to say was allow yourself to grieve. So my uncle, okay, so my uncle's passing, he left two young daughters. Well, young, like 18 and 24, 26. I can't remember how
That's
they,
young. Yeah.
and then two stepchildren also in their 20s that of course brought back feelings, because I also lost a close parent as a teenager. And I was like, man, the biggest thing, if I went back and could do it over, I would grieve the crap out of that, as quickly as possible. Not quickly, but like let myself just grieve.
Yeah.
And so anyway, if you are going through a loss, grieve, know that there's a light at the end for sure. And you'll get there faster if you just go through the process of
Yeah.
grieving.
Yeah. And we talk about
Yeah.
this in at least one, but if possibly many podcasts about your process of grieving with your mother and how so many good nuggets in there for people who are going through that. So the other thing too is I remember Esther, the Abraham Hicks, they said this sort of like when a death happens, it's like you've told yourself, like that was your excuse to be open and happy and love and all these things. And then, of course, you're hurt because the person's gone and you're sad for them, you're sad for you, you're sad for everybody. So you just shut everything down. So you don't have an excuse anymore. For example, you're my excuse to be one of my best versions of myself. So if you're vacuumed off the planet somehow, I'm going to be like, damn it, I've lost my excuse to do this. And I do believe in it because I think there's a certain amount of chemistry, energetic chemistry, whatever, between people that causes people to be their worst selves or the best selves just by being around other people, which is inexplicable. And I'm sure someone has explained it, but we'll just say it's a mystery for now. And so I do think that it's not just this like, oh, I should just be happy anyway, kind of thing. But I think it's something where you can go, okay, I manifested this excellent combination to bring out this in me. And now that me is now like, we're going to grieve for that me and, like this connection and how it changes. For example, when my dog died for my lab, I was a person in a relationship to that dog. And I swear to God, I changed after that dog died because it really hit me. I was like, this sucks. And I was really sad for a really long period of time, like a year or two. Like it was not good. And then I got a new dog, Tico, the dingle. You'll see him on our website. And he's like, we've had him for 2 years. And I'm like, oh, my heart's opening up again. It's been 2 years. You think, oh, yeah. And I'm like, nah, I kind of like you, and my heart's going, okay, maybe, because you're afraid or whatever. But the truth is that like, I could have instantly been like, okay, I'm going to be that person, but I wasn't ready to be that person. But I'm a new version of the person. So I think in some ways, death makes you go like, you're done with those outfits. Send them to Goodwill. Like you cannot wear those outfits anymore. And you're like, but I love that sweater, because like clothes make you feel a certain way too, right? And so it's just a hardcore version of someone decimating your closet and being like, I don't know, you got to find some new stuff. And you're like, I wasn't prepared for shopping and I wasn't prepared, like it's hard to give stuff away and get rid of all your things. It's why, people go through fires or a lot of physical loss. Like that's super traumatizing too. And this is like emotional and physical. So it's super intense. So the only thing I guess I would say to my future self, because future self's going to have to go to this, because, people will likely die in my future. that it's giving you an opportunity to be a new person, and it's doing it way too fast, and that sucks. Like, you don't have time. I mean, sometimes there is a slower process for people to transition, but often it's relatively quick. And so it's like, but we're just like resisting it so much because it's like change sucks. So how can we find our way into that new person? Because you're having to relate to your whole world totally differently, you know, like,
Yeah.
okay, those were lots of words. Sorry.
No, yeah, that
Thoughts?
was,
Okay.
yeah, that was great because I've had this thought recently and you reminded me of this. I think one of the things, or at least for me, in my experience, and this is a relatively new idea. One of the things I realized in losing someone, whether it's through death or a breakup or whatever, abandonment, whatever that might be, losing something that or a person, feeling like, for me at least, I realized that the reason I feel a loss, or at least in part, is because there was something about that person or some things about that person that I so admired and loved, and I loved to be around it. And I didn't feel like I had it in me. And so that feels like I lost that thing
Mm-hmm.
that person brought to the relationship.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is, like, in the last two romantic relationships that ended, there were a couple things that I started doing, and it really helped me not feel that loss so much anymore. And one of them, I remember an ex-boyfriend played the drums. And I was like, oh man, that he is so cool, so cool. He played the drums. I was like, wait a second, I can play the drums.
Yeah.
So I
Nice.
got a drum kit and I started playing drums. And interestingly, I stopped missing that part of him. Like, it's still cool, but not cooler than when I play the drums. And I know I don't play the drums well, but I feel cool playing the drums.
Exactly.
And so I was like, oh, so like so that to me was huge, because I was like, wait a second, these things that I feel like I'm missing are now gone forever because that person is now gone forever. Nuh-uh. I can possess those qualities if I want. And not only that, but like, we had a podcast on self-love, and it just makes me admire myself more. I'm like, oh, cool. Now I can do this thing, or now I can, I possess this certain characteristic. And it's not to force it. It's just, I think the reason we feel loss is because we feel like we've lost the thing that we just want so bad. And so whatever that is, we can embody that. And it feels like we didn't lose anything. It feels like, oh, not only I feel, we can think about that person. I feel you. I feel that you're with me because now I feel like I possess this certain thing that you also have. And now I have it too.
Yeah.
And I always had it. It was just dormant or whatever,
You're bringing up a huge point, which is, and this is in so many ancient texts in the Bible and Jesus and you name it, it's out there, is this concept of you are not separate from God. You are God, I am that I am. Like, it's just this, it's a crazy concept. You're like, but I'm me, so I'm not a God. But I'm like, but you are, but you don't know it because you're Erica, and you're the pillow, and you're the plant, and the this, and like, you can't wrap your little 3D human mind around it. But let's go with the fact that if you live in more of that truth of there's no separation between you and infinite intelligence, you're less worried about what you don't have.
Yes.
And
that's right.
you know that you have access to things. It's just that who's trained on any of this stuff? Like, if you were already speaking with interdimensional people, like, we'll talk interdimensionals, meaning, people not of Earth, then there's people that have passed over and all this kind of stuff. You're going to feel a higher level of confidence being like, all right, I'm super sad, but I think I can connect. But most of us are not practicing being our God selves on a regular basis. I know that most of my week doesn't look like that. Right? I'm not like, I am one with the universe. Like, I do this in meditation and other aspects, but I'm not although it's a good experiment, can you go to the grocery store as God? God is shopping. All right.
God is in the building, everyone. Please
Yeah,
behave.
yeah, exactly. We have infinite intelligence in aisle 4. Clean up in aisle 4.
Please do not ask for autographs. Please leave the infinite intelligence to shop in peace.
If you had complete faith in the all that is the expansion of the universe, like you basically have to take yourself to this. What is God and what does it want? And why am I not separate from it? If you can pull back to all that, you're like, okay, all is really well. But we came here to drink this Kool-Aid and be these people and play this human game. And when you're grieving, it's probably really hard, to toggle out of that and be like, I'm fine with the universe kind of thing. So to your point, it's like, okay, well then lean into the humanness and grieve through it and push yourself through it. Just don't get caught in that middle where I'm fine, but you're not really grieving. Because I've seen that happen to people that I know, and I'm like, yeah, that's also not working out because you're not really having your feelings and you're not leaning into this, like, I'm super sad, I'm getting through this forest, I'm reclaiming life, I'm humaning hardcore, but they're not really like going up to the all is well, infinite intelligence, I'm Eckhart Tolle, Abraham stuff, where you're just like, okay, I can transcend it really fast. They're right in the middle, which is the danger zone.
Yes, that is the danger zone. Exactly. That's great.
Ready? Take me right into the danger zone. Thank you, Kenny Loggins. Thank you.
Well, 2 thoughts. Okay. One is be in your body, which I'll get back to. I just had to say it out loud. Okay. The other one was, so for me, and I think too, maybe it's because I don't know, this brings me joy. I really love to have fun with the dead people. And like, oh my God, it's so fun. So like when my uncle, again, I didn't know him well, but little things that now I'm seeing signs of his presence. And I'm sure, like, again, I know that in the human form, if I had looked, I could have seen signs of his presence, even him being, 500 miles away or however far away that is. But I just, you don't think of these things when other people are still alive.
Right.
In any case, I immediately, as I was driving down, so, and these, I'll see something and then it'll remind me, oh, that's right, he had this, or he was like this, or he did this. It's almost like I see the thing and then I'm reminded versus thinking of the things that he had or characteristics of him and then I see the thing, which is proof to me that, like, he's showing up and then I'm being reminded. So driving down, I kept seeing like white vehicles driving, white. And I was like, oh, that's right, he had a white truck. And then and a lot of them were trucks. And I was like, oh, and so for me, I like to have these physical things that remind me that a person is there, or that the person who's passed on is still there. So like, I like people, I like it when they show me colors. I like it when they show me songs. I like it when they show me whatever signs they want to show me, words, sounds, smells, whatever, foods, whatever it is. The colors I love. So he showed up as white for me. And what's interesting is I've known for a while that my dad, we're all infinite colors, but I think for us, like, to have a language, to have a personal language that you have with somebody who's gone is really important. So it's like, oh, if white will mean something, it kind of means that, yes, I'm really here, So anyway, it's interesting because this was my brother, or my dad's brother, and my dad's dad, or their dad, passed away 3 years ago, or he transitioned 3 years ago. And I also saw him as white, and I've seen my dad as white. I saw my dad as white like way long ago. My dad's still here on this earth in the human form, but he's still white for whatever reason. It's white. Mm-hmm. So I was like, that's so cool. Like clearly that this Tafoya, my last name, men are like, there's something that's white. There's something going on here.
Yeah.
white. It's really cool. Anyway,
it's too fabulous. They can wear white after Labor Day.
Totally.
In any dimension at any time. Okay, so do you feel like this language that you're talking about, because I know you've had, again, people should reference the other episodes because we go super deep into all this stuff, but like, you know, people that have transitioned or on the other side, or interdimensionals, you know, working with electricity or showing colors or stuff. It's sort of like the other side is probably like, we're sitting here. And when I say the other side, I mean alive and non-physical humans. So like it could be, you know, just you name it, not here. Not here on Earth, in this dimension. And yeah, it could be two-dimensional beings. I don't know. But I'm sure that you know, there's certainly people out there that can toggle between all those communications without much, and everyone's either thinks they're crazy or they're more fringe and stuff like that. But what if we really opened ourselves up, say, hey, I'm loving having more community on non-physical side, so I'm ready to have a language that suits me and the people, the beings that want to talk with me, and it's going to start happening. Like that's the crazy thing, because you were super open to this stuff. Well, I was open to it, and then I found out you were open to it, and we were like, wow. And then you kind of like really ran with it, and you know, where you're like, oh, there's things you just feel like, am I crazy? Am I just making this up? And I think the answer is, if it comes to you, then you're not. If you're trying, what does that mean? That means that, you know, like if you're trying, yeah, maybe you're working a little too hard. But when things come to you, like I remember one time, I swear to God, a tree was talking to me, you know, like I could just feel a consciousness, and I was like, whoa, you know, I wasn't like, I need to be special and I need to have a tree talk to me so I can tell my friends. Like I only told you. Now, of course, I'm telling the world, but because I'm trying to make a point, which is some people need a lot of attention, and that's totally fine. I don't. Maybe I need attention, yes, because I have a podcast, but it's mostly for fun, to record the awesomeness that is us. But we all need attention. We certainly do. But I think it's like, my point is trust.
Yes, I was going to say that.
Trust yourself that if something comes to you and it doesn't feel like your ego is trying to make you believe that you're more special than anybody else, then totally trust that and go with it and keep asking for more, and it'll show up. And don't let anybody tell you you're nuts, you know, like, or let them, and then wait.
And then do this. Yes.
With you. Yeah.
Yes. That's exactly what I was going to say is I think that, learning to trust yourself, learning to really believing the intuition is real. And I think too many times the problem is we doubt ourselves so much, or we try to logic things, you know, out of the way. And we want to only make sure that, okay, how do I in this physical world make sense of this? And you can't a lot of times, because we haven't evolved enough in the physical form in order to. So that's why we have the field, the inside our bodies. These are magical machines right here. We haven't figured it all out yet, but these things tell you what's right and what's not. What, you know, and I mean. And really the truth is, like, you know, I've believed this for a while, but it's interesting because I've had this thought for a long time, and relatively recently, someone in the last like year or maybe year and a half, I heard somebody else say it, and I'm like, oh my God, it's, if you can imagine it, it exists.
Yes.
And so meaning, like, if you have a thought and it's like, oh my God, that's the craziest thought ever. Well, it didn't come from nowhere, because nothing comes from nowhere. You know, right. We all come from source. Yeah. We all come from something magical and huge and awesome. And, you know, so it all comes from somewhere. And I know that's a slight tangent, but my point is, trust yourself 100% implicitly. You are the only one who knows you. You are the only one who can feel into you and know whether or not, you know, something resonates or not. You know, nobody else can tell you what's right or wrong. Only you can. And so, yeah, to your point, like, yeah, don't let somebody else talk you out of something that feels right.
Yeah. Well,
Trust,
it's sort
trust.
of bringing death and faith together, right? Because
Yeah.
that's why people have faith in the religions of their choice, is because the religions have a framework, or the spiritual frameworks, or whatever you want to call them. They have a framework for death that comforts,
Yes.
and which is perfectly acceptable. And I'd say the next level up is developing your own framework for your own comfort and your own way of connecting to you, and have your own faith, so that you can lean on yourself during these times. It's not wrong to lean on religions or other people and all the support that you'll be given by community and otherwise. However, if you get that added layer of, okay, I really am going to feel my feelings, but also connect with, again, ask for that deeper connection. Yeah, I'm kind of babbling, but
That was beautifully said, by the way. I just wanted
thank
so
you so
perfect.
much. Yes.
So perfect.
Yes, yes. Okay, so in summary, I really try and use that hyper Queen's English. I
Sora.
love it so much. In summary, um, I don't even know if I'm doing it right. I
So
just want to share
good.
with my entire audience, one of my life goals is to master every accent in the British Isles and Scotland and Ireland, like all the British accents, just for the sheer challenge. And then I'll move on to other land masses to get those accents. But just that little space, there's so many little accents and nuances. I'm like, wow.
Oh my God, if you can get
So,
that train spotting accent down, that'd be
oh
amazing.
God, yeah, that's one to work on,
Or
right?
like the Salford, just what is it? West of Manchester or south or north? I don't know,
God, I
whatever.
know.
Oh
It's
my
yeah,
God.
like
Where you
depending on
can't
which
really
part of
understand people
town
are
you're
saying.
from. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, no, it's just
So awesome.
brilliant. Only because I must have some connection. Also, I don't believe in I mean, I believe in linear time and this space-time reality, but time is happening all at once. So I have like other selves that are living in England, apparently, because I'm so like
So
England.
good.
Ooh.
You're so good. And you're so good at
Okay.
it. She's really good
Okay. Why am I no, don't set that expectation. Don't do it, hey.
at it. Don't do
Um,
it.
don't do it. I think, okay, so back, how do accents relate to death? Well, okay, so you had this once again another experience. You are the goddess of death, the wearing the tiara of transformation, transition. So good. It's your Scorpio rising. It's fine. Um, so what's the next step for you? Like we've given tips to the audience. We want to hear from you, audience, obviously. But like, oh, the other thing I want to say, let's just have a real moment.
Okay.
Death to me, I don't like death. Not okay, yes, the person's gone, but I don't like how weird it is. Do you know what I mean? Like if when people
Okay.
die, it's just
Yes.
everything gets weird.
Oh my God.
I don't like it.
I'm so glad you said this. Okay,
Okay.
here's what I realized. I actually said this to my dad.
Okay.
So it gets super weird. Okay, there have been so many times in my life when I've told people what happened to my mom, and all of
Yeah.
a sudden I'm finding myself comforting them. Like they're falling apart, having like experiencing the whole thing in their brains, like, oh my God, they're going through the whole loss in their minds.
You're
And
like,
now they're
yes,
falling
it's
apart.
okay.
And now I'm the one who has to be the strong person for them. And so
You're like,
super, yeah. And so I mean it kind of got used, like I'm older now. It happened a long time ago. Most of the people I know, and whatever.
yeah,
But like there have been
that is a form of weird for
it's
sure.
super weird. And so I was noticing there were a couple, and I think what happens with people who tends to happen with people who don't have a lot of experience with
Right. So they're
death.
trying to, yeah, they're preparing themselves for.
Yeah, they're like they're just
Mhm.
imagining what it must be like, and they get stuck in that moment of like, oh my God, I've just lost the most important person in my life, and I'm like, I understand they're deeply empathizing in a way that
Yeah.
and so anyway, sorry, when you said weird, I
Well, no,
mentioned that
that's
to my
it.
dad.
There's different forms of weird. Okay, here's
Mm-hmm.
my form of weird.
Okay.
Do you know how like life is like normal and it just feels like each day just has this energy and whatever, and then something happens, like death is one of the things, but like you could have a cancer diagnosis, you could have somebody's house went on fire, something.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm like a hummingbird just flew by. So I'm like, hey,
Cool.
hey.
Awesome.
He's like, hi. He's doing this but like 50 times. Hi.
He's going backward, like, hey.
Hey, with this weird, hey, man. Okay. And but that weirdness where I feel like I entered a different dimension. And I remember this, my grandfather died when I was like 6 or 7, I think 6. And I remember like life was sort of normal, and then it just was like, I'm in a movie or something. Like the energy, I feel like I'm in a wormhole, or like if you've had a bad trip, or you're too high or too drunk or something. Not that I do that now, but back in the day, like where you're just like, this is not the reality I signed up for, or it just feels it's like the word trippy, and that weirds me out so bad. Like I don't like it. And so I think that like when the dog died, I was like, why does it just feel so fucking weird? Pardon my French. Like I just couldn't, I was sad about that. But then there was this layer of weird on top of it. And I'm like, man, I don't like that, man.
It's so jarring. It's so jarring.
It's like I went into a different timeline. It feels like time, energy, something beyond human comprehensionalness from an energy time space thing. I'm describing this really well. And so I just wanted to put that out there in case anyone else on earth doesn't understand this or can capture this, or if you yourself have had that thing, or maybe not. But anyway, that's to me the thing. The one, like, it's hard enough that the person's gone, or it's hard enough that this thing happened, but now I'm in this weird, things don't feel the same.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, it's just vibey weirdness. Yeah. And I'm so sensitive to vibes and energy flow and all these things that, like, I really don't like that, where I'm like, oh, I don't like this. This is very bad. And so I'm not sure I'm going to solve that. I just want to put it out there and see.
No, okay. I love this. I just want everyone else out there who's listening to know, like, you're so in tune, sensitive wise. Well, I think we're here. You're just so in tune. You're so remarkably in tune, and you always have been from the moment I met you. Well, before that, I'm sure, but
just the day I met you.
Just the day I met you is when you started to become super.
Yeah.
No, but like, I mean, and it explains why, like, I know we've talked about this, like sensitive to touch, sensitive to, all sorts of things. And, but this is another way you're ultra sensitive, because I imagine some people might be like, I'm not sure what she's talking about. I've had this person die and I didn't feel that. And then there are probably people who are like, oh my God, I never could put into words. And you exactly explained what I felt.
Put into other words. Yeah.
Other people feel this too. But I know you're right. It's almost like as you were talking, I was imagining like a certain energy was in a certain form on the earth, and now it's completely shifted, which like a domino effect, it changes everything. It's like energy was moving around in a certain way, and then this concentrated, awesome energy, poof. And now things have to realign and reshift, and oh my God, everything, time, energy, space, it all has to realign. And then we get used to this new way, and then somebody else poofs, and then, oh my God, it's happening again.
Yeah, it's like really freaky weather. Where you're like, good weather, all of a sudden, like the weather just gets, the atmospheric pressure I don't understand weather at all. It's fascinating, but I don't get it. And where things are shifting, so you're like, it's just a weird day, and your animals are acting weird, and you're like,
totally my ears. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's that stuff. And like, maybe you're saying like, okay, it's good, it's part of how things are going to go, and I'm just more sensitive to it than other people because energy is going whatever.
Yeah it's kind of I think so. I think because you're ultra sensitive and you can feel it, or you're very in tune with it. I think we all have the potential, but you're just naturally super in tune.
Which is probably why I avoid You either pre-worry about somebody's death, like they're gonna die, I should be worried until they're dead, and then I'll be more okay. And then, or I totally like, they'll never die, they'll live forever. And again, these
Option
are
B.
option B. And option C is understand there's a timeline for everything. Yeah, but I mean, it's emotional too. Like this whole thing, what you're talking about, because you're also on top of the death queen, you're also the emotion queen. So, with maybe to sort of put a finer point on all of it, the emotional journey of this whole death thing, you were talking about leaning into the emotions, and then we're also talking to transcending the emotions with
Yes.
a different perspective. And your advice is do both.
Yes, I love.
Okay.
My God, scene. Done.
And scene. All right.
Roll the credits.
Just now. Roll these credits. All right. So, any final thoughts? Obviously, we have other podcasts where we go into other dimensions of death with the death goddess, death queen, in a good way, not in a destroyer kind of way. So yeah, because you brought us so much goodness. Again, and I don't want people to forget the sort of talk to people's higher self,
Talk to people's higher self. Yeah.
Especially those on the other side of the aisle, or people you consider people that you don't understand, or you do not get why they are doing what they are doing. Like, should we talk to their higher selves and see what their higher selves have to say? It'd be interesting. I've never done this, but it's an idea.
Okay, I love that you do. I'm gonna stop talking after this one final thing, because I keep plays in my head, and you just said something so awesome. So my uncle, I'm not totally sure. I didn't know him very well. I don't know what his politics were. I don't know what his, beliefs were. I've heard conflicting things, so I'm not sure. We all have our stereotypes, including myself. And as much as I hate to admit it, but so I drive a Prius, and I live in a Colorado, and so it's a purple state. Like there's a lot of blues, a lot of reds, and again, because I have this belief, which I'm really trying to work hard on getting rid of, but because I have the belief, I keep seeing evidence of my belief that backs up my belief.
Yeah, because law of attraction.
But like I get if I get on the road, it tends to be the trucks that get a little annoyed with me in the Prius. That's been my experience.
Little Prius.
Get out of my way, you drive too slow. I'm gonna cut you off or pass you or whatever. And again, I know I create this. I'm 100% owning that I create this.
Yes, you do.
So that said, what's awesome is because I sort of I imagined my uncle was not an angry person. Like he was not. He did drive a truck. And because I think he might have been politically conservative, although I don't know, I kind of imagine him more on the side of like, Prius, get out of the way kind of attitude if he's frustrated on the road. So what's cool is literally yesterday I was driving, and I kept seeing my uncle in these, trucks, and, and even like some with the Trump sticker, and stuff like that. And I was like, I've never had more compassion and love for the people that I kind of see as not me,
Yeah.
Even though I know they're me because they're in my just different. Right. And I was like, oh, this is huge. So again, death, awesome, because, which I know I also want, I'm sensitive to recent loss. Hurts really bad. Yeah. Once you can grieve and kind of move forward and see the beauty, when you're there, oh my God, I'm like seeing my uncle everywhere. And in these, my whole, I'm here, you are there, we're enemies or whatever sort of feeling on the road sometimes was like those barriers are completely broken. I'm hoping this sticks and lasts, and I just have to remember this because this is brand new, and it doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, but point being, I'm like, oh my God. Sometimes I forget, and I drive a lot. I think that's part of it, is that I'm already
You're a
like
driver,
driving
yeah.
stressful. And so then I create stressful scenarios for myself. Um, but, but I have to remember that there are human beings with that are made of just as much unconditional love as myself out on the road behind these wheels.
Yeah.
And I forget that. And I'm like, wait a second. I never looked at my uncle as any of those drivers. But now I see that. And now I'm like, oh, no, wait, I love you. And I love you. You're my uncle. You're my uncle. You're my uncle. You know, you're
Everybody's
all
your
my
uncle.
uncles. And I love you like with the deepest love that I could possibly muster up. So
Oh,
anyway, it
I
was
love
really
this.
cool. It was really, really cool to just have like just my heart opening, more like, okay, you don't need to be like, no one's your enemy, no one's that kind of
Exactly. Well,
thing.
I love that this experience took you to a whole, like, as we were kind of mentioning before, you're invited to be a newer version. It's an opportunity, and you took it, which is huge because death usually makes people shut down. Maybe some people not. They're like, YOLO, and they just, but it tends to make people shut down a little more, be a little more afraid, be a little more aware of their own mortality kind of thing. So I
Mm-hmm.
love that you took the opportunity to see things differently, which speaks well to your character. If I do say so myself, Toya, you are pretty awesome. And so that's a great thing, is like when we're having just crap happen, it's like, how can I actually take my perspective up a notch instead of down a notch? Because it applies to everything, I think, right? Like,
Absolutely.
from
Absolutely.
a fender bender to I dropped my plate of spaghetti on the kitchen floor when I was really hungry, and it's like, okay, you're getting invited, the death of the spaghetti, like you're being invited to see this differently, and you're like, mm, or if nothing else, see something, a different way of being,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, like maybe I should slow down and pay attention to what I'm doing so I don't drop my spaghetti, like, and I'm not slowing down because I'm all scared about this thing, so I'm going faster, and I'm not like, you'll start to see why the universe is like tap, 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 and then eventually it'll and eventually it goes, yeah, and then eventually it just goes. It'll keep doing things until you're paying attention. This is what it is.
Yes.
And when I
Yes.
say it, I mean you,
You.
your higher self. Yeah.
Yes.
If
Yes.
you didn't follow me with that, watch all of our other podcasts, because it'll explain how you are it and not it, but it's coming for you. Everything's for you is the headline, and death is also for you.
Yes.
And it's here to help us be more of what we already are and grow and expand. So,
Yes.
any final deep thoughts, Dr.
Right.
Tafoya? Okay, well, I'm going to sign off and say this was highly edifying. I learned so many things, from the higher self to the higher selves of others who are here, to all these faith and emotions and leaning into your humanness. There's like so many things. I should have taken notes because there's so many things here. So I just want to say thank you, everyone, for listening. If you got this far, we love you. You're with us. All right. And of course, thank you for subscribing and liking this video if you liked it, because that helps us grow our connection, I guess, with you. And we love it. Check out flowbetter.com for whatever reason. There's stuff there. And we're just really happy to have you here. And Erica, as always, it's a total blast to talk to you. So thank you for
Pleasure.
existing. Pleasure. Thank you for having the pleasures. Yeah. Okay. I'm just, accents run wild. That's
It's so
remember
good.
Girls Gone Wild? The horrible that was. But for me, it would be Accents Gone Wild, and everyone would just be like, oh my God, how did this get made? It would be the same reaction, only just me doing accents. Same. With that, good eye, mate. We'll see you next time.